So yeah, thanks, Lucy. So today's presentation is about tips for transitioning to WebI 4.3 smoothly and faster. What are the steps and techniques and ideas we can use? These are mostly from techniques that I have used myself to get very used to and familiar with WebI 4.3. And let me announce right away that I really like the new interface now. I miss a lot of the features when I go back to 4.2. So let me quickly go into the things that I'm gonna cover. The reason behind, the main purpose behind this session was that with 4.3, we have a very brand new interface. And many of you have already seen this new interface, and either you are very excited or you are worried and concerned. And especially with the WebI development side, a lot of things have changed. So even though it is a much more modern UI, more improved, simplified UI, the workflows are simplified, the controls and menu, everything is more lighter, modern and slick. Still, a change is always challenging. So we wanted to bring the ideas so that you're not worried and concerned about the transition. Rather, the transition can be much more enjoyable and smooth. So with that in mind, let me quickly go through the main things that we can keep in mind. I'll go through some slides, and along with, I'll also demo a few things, show you a few things in the system. So currently, what we have already released is 4.3 Service Pack 1. Service Pack 2 is due to release in December this year. But what I'll show you right now will be Service Pack 1. So a few things that you can expect is the URL of the new launchpad will be same as how the format will be the same as what it used to be in 4.2. And I mentioned that particularly because if you have seen the FIORI launchpad that came in 4.2, it was also called as interactive viewer. So if you have seen that, it had, so 4.2, it offered a classic launchpad and the FIORI launchpad. The FIORI launchpad was purely interactive and for the super users, but it had a different URL format like BI launchpad instead of BI. But the FIORI launchpad of 4.3, the URL will be your server name, port number, /BOA/BI. If you have used the BI admin console in 4.2, that is a FIORI skin, a FIORI look and feel. So the new interface will look similar to that. The way you proceed getting familiar with the new interface is one way is to get the sandbox and then play around with the system there. The look and feel and the changes are majority in the launchpad. The appearance, the UI of the CMC has not changed. It still looks like how it looks in 4.2. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about two approaches here. One is if you're on this journey all by yourself, you're training yourself, figuring out the system yourself, then remember a few things that have not changed and you don't need to worry too much about them. One is the query panel. The query panel, the functionality and the look and feel are mostly very similar to how query panel looked in the past. A few icons have changed a little bit, but that's not too much of a big deal. To me personally, these are the primary changes in the query panel. One is the add query button. It has moved to the top left corner, and the run button That's what I keep losing. I used to keep losing for a long time, and I used to look for it on the top right corner, but now I'm used to it. It's over here now. And I think the third one is actually an improvement. You can maximize the screen or restore the screen when you don't want to see in full screen mode. And then some of these icons have changed a little bit, but they're easy to figure out. One thing, as I was running, helping one of our customers test the service pack 2, he pointed out that he liked this button so much that says apply changes and close, because it was sort of hidden within a drop down in 4.2, but it is very prominent in 4.3, and he likes that very much, because when it's hidden, not a lot of users know that they can do that. So that's query panel. Then the main thing is the fundamentals of WebI, how it works, how WebI works, the functionality, the calculation engine, query engine, none of that has changed. So if you already know WebI, you don't have to learn the concepts of WebI. That has not changed. The controls, the menu, that has changed. And most of the report elements, they are still called the same. So you'll be addressing a lot of familiar things as well. SAP has also kept a lot of the right-click options so that you have two ways of more than one way, not just more than one way of getting to a menu. You can do it in the new way, but they have also maintained right-click option for many of the controls, so that because you're so used to it, you can right-click and get to the new menu using that. So things like turn into, assign data, many of these things. And then also from right-clicking on the block itself and also right-clicking on the columns itself when we are talking about a table. All right, so let's look at some of the improvements. There's a few changes, but at the same time, it also made the workflow and the work much simpler. So simplified UI and menu. So I'm going to show you in the screen right after I talk about this. The main concern that I have heard from many users that all the left-hand side panels, like available objects panels, input control panels, repo structure and filters, they have all now moved to the right-hand side. Right? And I see how that can be such a huge change, but after I have used the interface for a long time, I have seen that's actually makes it easier to work on the canvas. But that's something has changed. The top ribbon and the menu that we used to see in 4.2, those menu and submenu, that has become much lighter and simplified. And many of them have now been grouped on the right-hand side. But the grouping, the overall organization, the thought process is still very same. So not something to worry about a lot. So let me quickly go to the interface. Can you see the, right now I'm showing the system. So in case you are still seeing the slides, please let me know.
No, we're seeing the system. It's good. Thanks.
Okay. So you can see the main login page itself look different. And as soon as you log in, you see the home page. That view can be customized, but this is the default one. And you see the styles and the tabs. You can either scroll down all the way and find out and use the options that you need to see, or you can go from tab to tab. And that's how it looks, the home page and the home page. And then once you go into WebI, As I showed you before in the screenshot, the query panel looks very similar. The icons have changed. I'm going to talk about that, but while I'm here, I'm just going to show you the blue flower, or I don't know what to call them, but fans or flower, their dimensions, the filters and the conditions are more obvious. The green flowers are details, and the rulers are, the orange ones are measure. And that's your query panel. So I'm gonna open an existing report because it's gonna be easier for me to show there. Okay. So you still have your design mode and reading mode. Move this one. So you can see at the top, we used to have really thick menu and submenus and tabs and subtabs. Instead, now we have much lighter controls here, and you'll find what you need pretty easily. Well, I'll not say pretty easily, but it's not a lot that you need to go under and dig deeper. It will take some time to get around used to the icons, but there are not a lot of hidden ones there. The two panels, you can hide or enable and disable the panels. So this is one panel where some of the data related things and all the left-hand side panels, they are now on the right side. And this is where you do most of your activities, your developments. You do in this call, something SAP is referring to as side panel. So the rightmost one you see is main panel. And the second one you see that I'm just going to hide and re-enable to make it obvious. That's they're calling as side panel. And there, the main two categories of controls are data related, and one is formatting related. That's what we need to kind of get used to. That's a huge change in the controls and the navigation. It's not exactly like how it used to be in 4.2. So back to my slides, and this is what I wanted to show, that a lot of those controls and navigations are grouped under data and formatting. And that's kind of what you need to train yourself to look for is it something I'm going to do with data or with formatting? Data related actions are like data assignment, break, applying break, rank, sort, filters, those things, and formatting, like either you're doing how things are displayed layout wise, or what part of a block is displayed, what is hidden, what is shown, and then certain appearances, text, and layout. So, I mean, that's how the panel is divided into. And the more you get around, more you play with that system, you will kind of learn what kind of properties are under which panel. The element linking, we have found that it is more improved, particularly to say, what I really like about element linking in 4.3 is after you have set things up, how you set it up is similar. Again, the UI is different, but the overall process is same. But after you have set it up, operating with the element linking is much better. So if I filter on US, so I have this chart getting filtered by US. The way I can quickly clear the filter is simply clicking on it again. So if I click on US again, it's going to remove that filter with a hint that, okay, now it's applying a filter. So add a filter on Canada, filtering on Canada, and now removing a filter on Canada, things like that. More spacious formula editor with comments and new functions. I know Roxanne has touched on that a little bit already. In case you missed anything, you can see the formula editor. And the variable editor also looks very similar with an option to show you, enter the name. You can maximize or minimize the window. And one of the new features in 4.3 is that you can add comments, something like this. For example, this is a comment. I know a lot of developers, we have been requesting this for years so that we don't have to write all the comments in the description box, but we can add a few comments right within where we are writing the formula and the code. And now we have that. And this syntax is allowed, and also this particular syntax is allowed as well. Okay. What else? New theme, and there are a few new functions that they have added related to string. Coming to theme, we have, you can actually change the theme, which is which might take a little bit of getting around because, but it's actually a great addition. So if you go to settings, and depending on if you have a sandbox or you have gone through any training or anything, depending on whether it's service pack 0 or 1, you will see a different list. But you can choose between all these themes to kind of customize how the screen will look like. So you can choose between white background and black, or contrast text, or black background and white contrast text. There are multiple options there. What you need to remember with the theme is that some of the icons, the color of some of the icons, especially the universe objects, the shapes will be same, but the colors can change between the themes. So that's something you need to keep in your mind. Some other improvements are the report tabs that used to exist at the bottom. Now they're at the top. I have heard a lot of customers of mine asking in 4.2 world whether we can customize the report tabs to come at the top so that it's very obvious for users that they can go from tab to tab and the tabs are available. Sometimes it's not that obvious when they're lying on the lower side of the screen. Filter bar, input controls, they're kind of combined now, and they're also part of the top row, of the top area, upper half of the screen. They show up over there. As I said, you can hide or show. You can choose to do that. But there is a nice indicator here that with that little dot, that there is some filters there. So you can click there, and depending on how they're grouped, input controls can be grouped very easily with less complicated workflow in 4.3. So the filters, report filters, or the input control filters, they will show up over here. Okay. And if you don't want to occupy that space, you can simply hide that. And this is where you can reset all your filters. One of the things to get used to this interface is to keep this in mind, that in design mode, any changes that you make, for example, I have the line chart. any changes that you make there, you can instantly see them happening on the canvas. In 4.2, you had to right click on the chart, then go to format chart, and then you had a pop-up box showing up, and you make the changes there. And then you have to move it kind of around to see how that affected the chart, or you have to come out of that box to see how the changes look like on the chart. In 4.3, because the controls are on the right, you can simply make these changes, and you can see the effect right away. While I'm showing that, let me talk also about the instant apply box here. This is one of the key features of 4.3 that if you get familiar with, you'll get a lot of advantage, which is by default, this is checked. So that's why any changes you make, any settings you change, the changes applied instantly, as the name says. But say if you know that you're for sure going to make 5 changes, right? So for example, I'm at the report level and I want to change the margins. So I know that I'm going to change the margin for all 4 sides. So instead of each applying and the whole report rendering with that change, I can uncheck this one, and then I can go through all my changes. And as soon as you make a change, you can see the apply button gets activated, and then I can hit apply. Okay. So that's one of the key things when you're getting used to it. Keep that in mind. That comes really handy. The other things, the user-friendly, more drag and drop of objects. Since your data assignment is also lying on the right-hand side of your canvas on the screen, you can see them instantly as soon as you select or highlight a particular block. And you can actually move around the objects, remove an object, drag and drop, reorganize them in a table much easier. For example, this. So if I have a table, say, yes. So I can see all the objects that's assigned to that table. And from my data dictionary, which is a view of my data provider, the queries, I can drag and drop anything over here, or I can remove something really fast. I can move this down or up with the arrow, or you can even click them around like that. And it gives you a very nice little indication of where you want to move. For whatever reasons, I broke that, but yes, you can easily move them around the objects over here. So these are the things, if you keep in mind, then you kind of know where to go. If you need to organize, configure the block, you need to go into this panel and then this panel, and you'll get the data assignment right away. So the way I try to remember was that, and I think I have that point in the next slides, kind of getting ahead of myself, that anytime you feel like I want to right click, you will see that there is an option on the right, the side panel. The side panel will have that options available. You might be able to find that control in the right click menu still. As I said in the beginning, that they have kept many of the right click controls as it is. But I have seen that I have I mean, it's nice to have that right click options there, but I have tried to not use that and try to figure it out and find it on the side panel. But I personally found that very helpful, because that way that was a good practice and getting used for me that, okay, I can find it here. And if I don't, I can still go back to my right click option and then see where it takes me. Right. The other thing I'm going to talk about briefly is about new WebI data model. So in 4.3, SAP offers a new feature called WebI as a data source. So you can save a WebI report and then use that as the data source to create more WebI reports. So for example, if I go to my query panel, and I can add another query, or you will also see this in the list of sources when you start creating a new WebI document. And I can go to, I'm going to randomly pick probably any other report here. Actually, I have something that let me just put that place and focus. So the idea here is that this particular WebI document now becomes a source for my new document. And the list of objects available to me now is all the objects, the entire data dictionary of the source WebI. So all the objects that came in as universe objects, any variables I created, time dimensions I create, geo dimensions I created, merge dimensions I created, all are now available to me as list of objects when I'm using the WebI as a source. So this is a brand new feature, and try to take advantage of that whenever you can. Also can enable auto refresh in your document. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. So if you look at the data, you can actually, sorry, that just went ahead and refreshed the data. You can actually set up auto refresh and set the time in minutes. Sometimes users have a dashboard or a WebI report on the displayed on a screen. And if you let it refresh on a certain schedule, it's very helpful and avoids any scheduling or manual refresh. Excuse me. All right. These are some of the changes, not necessarily always I'll consider them as improvements, but definitely changes that you need to get used to. Are the new universe object icons. I already showed you those, and the theme-wise object icon color. I talked about that. So if you get used to one theme and then if you switch to another theme, what you will find is that the color of the universe objects may differ. So just a warning. Opening document and saving document. So this is something I found that it took a little time for me to get used to it, and I spent a lot of time actually find an alternative until I was confirmed that no, that's the only way of doing this. So I want to mention this right here. So if you now I have one report open right now, one document, but any other documents that I had opened and I have not closed, they will be listed here. So you can see the drop down. So all the currently open document, you can switch from this document to any other currently open document from here. Okay. However, if a particular document is not opened already, the way you will need to open is you have to go back to home page. And then either go to the folder tiles or to the document tiles, or pick one from the recent documents or your favorite documents, and then open from there. So something to save you some effort and time if you're on a document, and see that I can go back to my open document. Open document right from here. But if I want to open a new document, I have to go to either folders and navigate, or documents and navigate. Okay. I'm almost at the end of my time. And saving a document, I think they have tried to be smart here. I don't know if I always like the idea or not. But again, just so that you're not worried about this, you'll see sometimes the save and the save as. Sometimes only save as is enabled and save is visible. So only time when you have some changes that needs to be saved, they have the save option enabled, only then. So if you're not seeing the save option, don't worry, it might just be that you have to make some more significant changes to have that enabled. And some of the other things that have changed, and you just need to know or learn either yourself or from someone else how to apply them. I know it's almost, yeah, I think it's, I'm going over my time a little bit. I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes to finish off this one, wrap this one up. So these are some of the things that I have found useful to get used to. One is take any simple report from your 4.2 environment and try to recreate that in 4.3. That's how you will see, instead of trying to use a lot of new features, random features, you will kind of be focused on your self-train path on what you're looking for. And then find a pattern. The more you use the product, you will find a pattern about what kind of features you will find under which panel. If it's, you want to change, make the text bold, this is where I go. If I want to make a layout change, I know this is where to go. So always look for the pattern. And remember the contextual menu, which is if, depending on what you're clicking at, whether it's report, you're clicking on the report canvas, or on the report, or on an actual chart block, or on the title or the axis, depending on that, the side panel menu will change. And this one is kind of similar. And then this I already talked about, that try to use the side panel when you're learning and practicing. Use the instant apply. And when you don't find something, go to the home page and see if you can find the option there. And then look for the ellipsis button. Let me quickly show what I'm talking about. You will see that either it's an object, universe object, you will see this button, and you will be able to, like, things that you could do right click. Again, sometimes you will find them under the ellipsis button. This is at the object level as well as your content level. If I go to my home page, see the ellipsis button, I can see a lot of options there. Or if I go to my list of documents, again, instead of right click, you will see all those right click options under the ellipsis button. That's another pattern. And then I want to quickly touch upon the options for trainings. InfoSol offers a bunch of trainings on 4.3. Definitely consider them if you're already very familiar with 4.2 WebI in general. The Delta training will help you a lot to get used to it. It's a kind of 1 day, full day immersion training. You will get to use most of the important WebI features and get very used to the controls. Will give you very guided instructions on where to go and do what. It's a hands-on training, so you get access to a live system, and also you'll have the material. A similar training is there for 3 days, but it's not a difference training. It's more of a full-on immersion training that either if you're a beginner or a pro, either of you can take that. And a la carte options, I'll let Paul or Lucy shed some light on that, depending if you're a large group coming from one organization. We can also customize training for you. I have personally benefited a lot from the one-day training that SAP provided when they were coming out with 4.3. So I highly recommend training. And to find more about those training, you can go to the WebI Like a Pro, webylikeapro.com. You'll get more details there. And then just overall, I've already talked about them. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna kind of skip this slide. They're kind of a summary of my presentation. And overall, I'll say keep a positive mindset. How it may sound very cliche, but I have seen that if you focus on the improvements, you will see that you're liking the new UI more and more than being worried and concerned or scared about it. So yeah, and reach out to us anytime for any help. And I think I have already taken some extra time, so I'll stop right there and you can contact us. Any questions? And happy Diwali to whoever celebrates Diwali. Over to you, Lucy.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ronali.
Thanks, Ronali, and happy Diwali to you as well. That was really great.